Hey everyone, before this list begins, I just want to throw in a quick disclaimer. Some of the movies on this list are technically 2020 films, but I'm basing this list alone on UK releases. Hey, what's up everyone? It's that time of year again. Well, I would say that time of year again, but it's technically 2022 now. But I want to get this video out regardless because I didn't do one last year because of the, sorry, I'm doing it again. I didn't do a ranking video in 2020 because I just didn't see that many films, but I did do an Instagram post. This year, however, I want to make this an annual thing in future where I just talk about every single film that I saw in a specific year, rather than me just, you know, doing a full edited top 10 ranking of best and worst. I just want to do like a full, not technically a stream, but it's going to be very, very relaxed and not heavily edited. I did a video similar when I did my top 10. Sorry. Every film that I saw, my favourite film from every year that I've been alive. Yeah, that's the one that I saw. And there's this little guy here who will be in the background and he will be very active and he will be doing little jingly noises, probably scratching my furniture, because you always fucking do, don't you? But that's the cost of having that's the cost of having pets. But he's part of the family, so go on then. So anyway, any distractions, I do apologise about that, but I'm going to get into this list right now. I'm not going to tiptoe around anything, so there will be spoilers for every single film that I see. There will be timestamps down below in the description, or the pinned comment, whichever one I choose to use, telling you when I'm going to talk about a specific film, and if you click on that timestamp and see a film that you don't want ruined for you, then you know to click away. Alright, so anyway, the worst film that I saw in 2021. Now, I saw 59 films that year. And most of them were pretty, there were some really, really good ones, but most of them fell into the category of not leaving that much of an impression on me, but not being bad films overall. And so yeah, so my memory may be a little vague on most of them. I'm not going to remember every single detail about every single one. I'm definitely not going to rewatch most of them, just for the sake of having some commentary about them. But anyway, with that being said, number 59, and the worst film that I saw in 2021 is Twist. Now, this is like a modernized version of the story of Oliver Twist. And like I said before, my memory is very, very vague on it because I really don't remember much about it because it was that forgettable. But what I do remember is that it had a really boring story. Michael Caine's in the film. I mean, not even he could save it. Like, his presence alone couldn't save the film for me. He was... Oh, man. What do I remember about it? Like, practically nothing, because it was just that bland and uninteresting to me. But I do remember the dialogue being so poorly written and cringy and just really, really bad. Rita Ora is also in the film. No disrespect to her music, but she's awful in this film. Absolutely awful. And... what I find most interesting about singers when they come and do, you know, acting debuts and stuff like that, because basically when Lady Gaga came on to do A Star Is Born in 2018, I was like, Lady Gaga, are you serious? Blah, 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 blah. But I've grown as a person since then. I'm much better at what I do now, I think. So anyway, when she came onto A Star Is Born, she absolutely killed it. She was so good. She kept up with Bradley Cooper. They were neck and neck. The chemistry was on point. So I never like shrug off singers as like, oh, because this singer's in it, it's just a poor marketing technique or something like that. But yeah, I don't shrug it off as like a poor marketing technique or the film's going to be bad because it's a singer who doesn't have any real acting talent or something like that. Because that's not the case, because you can get singers that make acting debuts which are good. In Rita Ora's case, whether this is her debut or not, I don't know, but she's just not good in this film, really not good. So I'm going to move on anyway. Number 58 is Cinderella. That's another version of a classical story that we already know. It's like... You know the phrase, don't mess with perfection? I'm not saying Cinderella is a perfect film, but the message that they try and put forward in this film, I agree with it. You shouldn't give up your passions in life for a man. If you're a woman, or if you're a man, you know, you shouldn't give up your passions for a woman. Or if you're non-binary or whatever you identify as, you shouldn't give up your passion for a partner, for for a love interest or something like that. But it's kind of like thrown in your face and mixed in with a classical story that no one just cares about. No one cares about a retelling of this story anymore. And Camila Cabello's in this film, and I really like her. Her music is really good. Again, would I really call her a fantastic actress? No. She was better than Rita Ora in Twist, I'll just say that. Now, for the songs, there are songs in this film too. They don't really do anything interesting or write their own songs or implicate good covers of songs. They just use like popular pop songs that we already know and do covers of them. Idina Menzel is in this film as well, and her voice is absolutely stellar. It's always good. But other than that, I don't really have a lot to add to this story. It's just a really bland retelling of something that we already had. I mean, that goes for any kind of Disney remake, really, but this one, I wouldn't say it's the worst version of Cinderella that I've seen, but it's definitely not something that I go to rewatch again. Number 57 is Sweet Girl. Now, Netflix have this thing, right, where they will pump out movies with, like, people, high-tier, top-tier actors, A-listers, so you know the star power behind the film. That's what this film does with its poster. The only reason I even clicked on it in the first place was because I saw Jason Momoa and Isabella Merced, and I like both of them. Really do like them. But the thing is, with this film, it does what usual Netflix stuff does. It gives you a poster of two well-known actors, and you're like, oh, click. But is the film good? No. Sweet Girl is terrible. They try and throw this like twist in at the end, which doesn't do anything. There's no justification for it. Will it blow your mind? No. Well, it didn't blow my mind anyway. I mean, as soon as I saw it, I was like, huh. So it's like it's trying to be clever, but it just didn't work for me. Like, not taking anything away from the actors, because they are both talented people, and I'm sure they did whatever they could with the material that they were given. But Sweet Girl overall is a really bad film with a twist that doesn't work, a really boring premise. But the only thing that was interesting about it is kind of the concept. The concept is pretty interesting, like people on the run kind of thing. I've always been a sucker for those kind of things, but this film just doesn't do it for me on a personal level. Okay, so number 56 is The Secret Diary of an Exchange Student. This is a Brazilian film. I watched it in full subtitles. Do not watch the dub. The dub is awful. So I watched the subtitle version, and the reason why I clicked on it was because, we have a really likable actress here, Larissa Milano, I think her name is. I do apologise if I've mispronounced that or said it wrong completely. I more than likely have. But yeah, I've seen her in a couple of things, and she's really likable, quite a funny young girl. And so I put this film on with the expectation of it was going to be like a straightforward drama or a straightforward rom-com, but the story is all over the place, and it's like these things you can see coming a mile away. So basically, this girl moves from Brazil to the US to pursue some kind of career, and she meets... Okay, so she moves to the US because she also wants to be with her American boyfriend, but then she meets this other guy who's Brazilian there, and she falls in love with him instead. The boyfriend cheats on her with her best friend, and there's even a plot point towards the end where it's like a kidnapping scene, which is supposed to be really scary and stuff like that. Like, it just... What even is this film? There's just so many different things thrown left, right, and centre, and I just didn't bite into any of it. None of the characters I even cared about, and yeah, that's all I really have to say about it. It's just a Netflix and chill film which you'll probably watch once and never again. Number 55 is Malcolm and Marie. Now, this film was exhausting to get through. Now, I'm not going to take anything away from the star power and the acting talent that John David Washington and Zendaya have. They are really good. I'll watch pretty much anything that they're in. But this film, it's kind of like they set up some interesting drama and the characters start to argue, but then the argument continues for an hour and 40 minutes straight. It was exhausting to get through, because it's like, imagine if you see a dramatic scene in a film, right? And you're intrigued, the drama's gripping and stuff like that, but then you kind of want things to settle down for a little bit and maybe stretch out the story a little bit more, but this film just continues with the arguing to the point where both characters are point scoring against each other, and then overall it comes to a conclusion where they just gotta go to sleep, wake up in the morning, and I'm assuming everything's fine, but the relationship is so toxic. What I did like is the visual design. It is in black and white, which you don't see much of in nowadays TV or film. But overall, listening to two people argue for an hour and 40 minutes straight is just exhausting, and brain cells will actually popping out of my body left, right, and centre, like there's still one on the floor right now. So, moving on. Number 54 is Space Jam: A New Legacy. Now, what can I say about this that hasn't already been said? The film is just awful. A lot of YouTubers that I watch have put this on their like bottom top 10 of the year, and yeah, it's in mine too. I mean, when you hear the words algorithmically speaking, I think I pronounced that right in the end. I knew what kind of film I was in for, because it's like, this film doesn't have a structure to follow. It's pretty much just Warner Brothers references popping up here and there with the Looney Tunes thrown into the mix. The Looney Tunes are supposed to be the main centre of attention, but I find myself looking at all these different references, like the Iron Giant. I mean, Pennywise, the dancing clowns in this. I mean, it's kind of weird when you have a family-friendly film like Space Jam, and then you have like Pennywise in the crowd, which is clearly not for kids. Am I offended by that? No, but it's just a bit of an odd choice. Don Cheadle, he's okay. LeBron James is not a good. His acting talent isn't there. And like I said earlier with the singers and stuff like that, I won't discredit someone because of that. His acting is pretty much on par with Michael Jordan's in the first film. But the only thing that I did laugh at, really, was when everyone was like teased into Michael Jordan coming back. The movie was like, I found Michael Jordan, and then it's Michael B. Jordan instead. Okay, I know that the plot, that joke isn't clever in the slightest, but it still got a giggle out of me. But overall, Space Jam 2, nothing but references and CGI thrown everywhere like that. The basketball game has no structure or point system to it. It's just do whatever the hell you want, and for some reason, a winner or loser could still be implicated at the end. It just doesn't work for me. It's just no, it's one of those films as well where, like, when a film comes out which is pretty beloved when you're younger, and then about 30 years later they bring out another one which is just a bland, lifeless, I wouldn't say rehash, but bland, lifeless, either rehash or a sequel, and it's just completely and utterly nothing. The film's nothing. So anyway, moving on. Number 53 is Antlers. Now, I watched this quite excited because I remember it was supposed to come out in 2020 and then didn't because of the pandemic. And then I was I was kind of like, this looks so interesting from the trailers. You know, I've always liked stuff like there's this monster creature taking out people and stuff like that. But it's pretty much all premise, all concept, and no execution. I really don't have that much more to add to it. It's just a really boring horror film. Number 52 is Chaos Walking, the film that had development hell, pushed back so many times, reshoots, and the main reason I was looking forward to it, again, I'm going back to the same point that I said before, when you see a picture of two likeable actors in a role together, it's going to sell you sometimes. And when I saw a picture of Tom Holland next to Daisy Ridley, I was like, alright, Spider-Man and Ray, let's go. And this film has, like, a concept. It's a book adaptation, by the way. I haven't read the book. It has a concept where you can think, like, this should be great, but it just wasn't. Can I really pinpoint exactly why? No, not really. It's like they have this thing called the noise, and it's kind of like a psychokinetic energy field where people can hear your thoughts, but sometimes it's so distracting. And with a premise like that, maybe it is better suited for a book. I mean, Chaos Walking just didn't do anything for me. It didn't leave any impact on me. It's just a really bad film. And I feel bad for Tom Holland and Daisy Ridley because they're both talented. And I know they're talented because I've seen their talents. So, overall, I'm going to forget about this movie by the time I start doing lists for this year, 2022. So, yeah, Chaos Walking, it was nice knowing you, I think. Number 51 is Afterlife of the Party with Victoria Justice. Victoria Justice's character is a party animal, and her friend is a bit more relaxed, a bit more reserved. She wants to do something with her life, and Victoria Justice's character is very much like still in party mode. Now, if you're still in party mode, there's nothing wrong with that, of course, but obviously they clash on these two aspects. Victoria Justice's character falls, hits her head in the toilet, and dies. And so now she's like a spirit, and she has to fix relationships with people in her life, like her dad, her mom, her best friend. And it's kind of like, that sounds interesting and all, but it's mixed up with this kind of tone of a rom-com chick flicky drama, and you know, with the best friend dynamic. And it's kind of like, she's supposed to be a spirit though, right? But she can like physically move stuff with her hands and stuff like that, and it's just it just lost me almost immediately. And what else can I say about it? Nothing. It's just a drama, a chick flicky drama with Victoria Justice. Like, that's it. Number 50, Army of the Dead. Now, this is not just one of the worst films that I've seen this year, but it's also one of the most disappointing, because I was generally looking forward to it. I heard Zack Snyder was on board, so I was expecting some, you know, over-the-top zombie killing stuff to go down, and that's pretty much what you got. But it's like there's no story structure. There are so many characters in this, and they all try to have little arcs to them, and it's just so unfocused in places. The German guy, the German hacker, for example, none of his comedy landed for me. And did I enjoy anything? Probably Dave Bautista, and some of the zombie kills were pretty cool. But past that, the movie's just too damn long. This could have been easily condensed into an hour and 40-minute zombie heist film. You don't have to stretch out every single character and give them all these crazy backstories. Just give us a ragtag team of professionals, make it fun, make it energetic, get the pacing a little faster and get it out the way, and then I probably would have enjoyed it a little more. But it just stretches out for too long, throwing in all these different things. So many dumb things happen, and I just couldn't get on board with it. And because of that reason alone, I didn't even bother watching Army of Thieves, because I think it's a prequel to this Army of the Dead, and I just couldn't be bothered. Number 49, Spirit Untamed. What can I say about this film? It's harmless. It's completely and utterly harmless. DreamWorks adaptating Spirit, the horse. You know, he's a Mustang horse, and you see, I'm struggling on what to say about it, because it's just a normal family-friendly film, which will resonate with kids a lot more than adults, so I'm definitely not the target audience here. It focuses more on the Netflix TV show, with some of the characters in that, and but really, to me, it doesn't have shit on the 2003, I believe it was, adaptation of Spirit, where it was a cartoon. Matt Damon was the voice of the horse, or, well, he narrated most of it, should I say, and pretty much with Bryan Adams songs as well. You see, like, I'm even struggling to think of interesting things to say about it, because it's just sort of there, and I forgot about it instantly. My daughter enjoyed it though, I suppose that's something. Number 48 is Jungle Cruise. Now, I couldn't get on board with this. I mean, what can I even say? It sort of mixes a lot of things into one. Like, it tries to be, it kind of reminded me of The Mummy in places, or Pirates of the Caribbean, because they have this dark, mummified entity kind of stuff going on. But what I can praise about it, the relationship between Dwayne Johnson and Emily Blunt is actually pretty good. Jack Whitehall's also in the film, and, you know, I know comedy's a really subjective thing, but Jack Whitehall just didn't nail the comedy for me in this. Like, I found him irritating. Now, it's kind of weird, because when it comes to comedy, with me personally, I find Jack Whitehall funny when he's on A League of Their Own, or when he's doing his own stand-up. But when he's in films like this, I just find him the cringy character. Like, what can I even add? What can I even add or say about it? It's just really, really bland comedy that just doesn't land for me. Jungle Cruise overall, would I watch it again? Probably not. If my daughter wanted to watch it, then yeah, I'd probably happily put it on. But other than that, there's not really much else I can say about it. Moving on. Hey, you saw him then, didn't you? Number 47, Love Hard. Now, Love Hard is the first Christmas film that I watched. New Christmas film, should I say. Why did I click on the film? Because Nina Dobrev in it, and it follows the exact same beats of most of these kind of dramas where the girl is catfished and she wants to get with this specific guy. The nerdy guy helps her out to try and get this guy, but then she realises that in front of her the entire time was the person that she really liked, which is the nerdy guy. It's exactly that, and that's all I have to say about it. I like Nina Dobrev. I'm a fan of the Vampire Diaries, but I just didn't buy anything that happened in this film. It was just really, really predictable. Not really that emotionally gripping. And the guy that plays Paxton from Never Have I Ever is in this. That was cool, I guess. That's about it. Right, had to pause for a second because my cat decided that he was going to pull out all the carrier bags from the cupboard and scratch the living shit out of them, so I had to stop him before he hurt himself. Anyway, number 46 is Outside the Wire. Now, what frustrates me most about this film is that I can see a good film underneath the surface of all this. You have a futuristic setting, you know, futuristic Marines. You have a soldier that made a bad call, got all of his friends killed. Anthony Mackie with a kind of a cyborg sort of enhanced human being sort of thing. And yeah, all that is there, all that is on the table, but it's like it was told in such a bland and most unoriginal way possible that I just got bored instantly. But that's what annoys me most about it, is that it was all potential, and that's it. So, moving on. Coming at number 45 is To All the Boys, Always and Forever. Why this thing is a trilogy, I don't know, because the first film on its own, To All the Boys I've Loved Before, I thought was actually quite a charming drama comedy. I mean, you have Laura Jean, you have Peter getting together, although, yes, it does follow really, really similar tropes to what you've seen in other things, but it had that charm to it. The chemistry between the leads was really good. But with the sequel, it lost me a little bit. I just didn't care. And then they brought out another one, so I was like, do I really want to watch this? But I did. And it's actually an improvement over the second one. Still not very good, but an improvement over the second one. I mean, it follows cliches of these sort of dramas, like two high school sweethearts. They have to move to different colleges, which are in different American states. Will they be able to see each other? Will they be able to make it work? That sort of stuff. And I've just seen it being done better. And this film really didn't connect with me all that much. That's why it's so low. But it's a charming sort of film. Yeah, there are films that I've seen which are probably a lot worse than this. But it's like I said earlier, like if the film doesn't leave any impression on me, that's why it's so low. It doesn't necessarily mean it's a piece of shit. It just means that it didn't do anything for me, which is what To All the Boys, Always and Forever did for me. Number 44 is Venom Let There Be Carnage. Now, I wasn't really expecting much going into this because the first Venom film was alright at best. What I can praise about the second one is that they upped the comedy. The comedy is equally funnier. The dynamic between Eddie Brock and Venom is still really good. But anything past that, it's like I didn't know what to do with Cletus Cassidy and Carnage. I just wanted to see a little more of that. It's like Carnage was created through a tinsy bit of venom that got into Cletus Cassidy's bloodstream when he bit Eddie. I think he bit him or something like that. I can't even remember. You see what I mean by the memory thing? And so the film just didn't leave any impression on me. There was a love story between Cletus Cassidy and his high school sweetheart, I think it was, and I just didn't buy into that either. There wasn't enough moments to make me care about what was going on. But the most interesting thing about the film is probably the post-credit scene, but we all know eventually what happened with that too. It's like, I don't even know at this point. Number 43 is The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. Now, a lot of people say that this is actually a decent Conjuring film. Yeah, it kind of is, but the reason why it's so low on my list is because I think this franchise just repeats the same kind of tropes over and over again. I mean, a lot of horror franchises do. It's not just The Conjuring. I mean, there's only so much I can see of kids getting possessed and giving a loud demon roar, and people getting possessed and you see the bones cracking it's just, how many times can I see that to the point where it just leaves no impact on me? To me, horror films can be better than that. I mean, I've seen films like The Shining and Hereditary and The Lighthouse, even The Empty Man that came out this year. I like horror films that give you that what the fuck just happened kind of mind frame, but this film just didn't do it for me. The leads are really good, with Ed and Lorraine Warren. I like that aspect. I like the characters, but I think I'm just done with this franchise, or even just done caring about it. Is it a bad horror film? Not necessarily, but it's just a really cliched horror film in my opinion. I've seen everything that there is to see in this kind of premise with the jump scares and the bone cracking and the kids getting possessed. I'm just done with it at this point, I think. At number 42 is Till Death. Now, I'm a sucker for these kind of stories where it's a character stuck in one situation and they have to find a way to get out of said situation. Megan Fox is in this film. Looks like she's having a lot of fun in the film. But what can I say other than I've seen this story being done better? And, I mean, she's handcuffed to her dead human's corpse, dragging him around. There's two guys that come in and try and kill her. One's more sympathetic than the other. It's just something which I've seen done better. That's really all I can add to it, really. Megan Fox looks like she's having fun in the role. I thought she was okay. But I generally think, this is not to discredit Megan Fox in the slightest, but I generally think that with better writing and maybe a different actress, they could have pulled it off a little better, like maybe Scarlett Johansson or Samara Weaving. But then again, like, what the hell do I know? With better material, maybe Megan Fox would have blown me away. That's just me speculating, really. So there's not much else I have to add. Moving on. Number 41 is Minari. Now, this felt like Oscar clickbait to me. Like, there were so many things that I saw, like, oh, such a heart-gripping film, 5 out of 5, you know, coming from all these different big newspapers and stuff like that. But then, when I watched the film for myself, I was like, it's fine. Like, I don't see any major problems with it. I mean, I can see where you're going with the story and stuff like that. But the drama in the story just didn't feel that intense to me, and the pacing was very slow. Just not my kind of drama, I think. But other than that, I don't really have much else to add to Minari either. It's just an okay drama, which was made out to be so much better than it actually was, in my opinion. If you enjoyed it, that's great. No problems at all there. Number 40, Fast and Furious 9. Now, Fast and Furious is a franchise which I understand. I understand this, that whenever a Fast and Furious film comes out, it's very, very hard to one-up themselves every single time. Because, you know, they seem to get crazier and more over the top. And I know there's a lot of memes going around on the internet how Fast and Furious is now like this big Avengers Marvel sort of thing. And it's like the makers of this film took that literally and made the most over-the-top Fast and Furious film ever. And yeah, that's what we go for, right? But it was a little too dumb for me. It's kind of like I didn't have any... the story didn't impact me all that much. You know, the brother dynamic between Vin Diesel and John Cena was nowhere near as good as it should have been. The fight between them two, it's like really short and underwhelming. But I think what really, really does it for me with this film, which really makes me just not like it, is the abundance of completely dumb shit, which should kill characters in an instant. It's like each character is just unable to die. They're just invincible at this point. And because there's one scene literally where like Vin Diesel and John Cena are fighting, and John Cena picks Vin Diesel up by the legs. Vin Diesel's, the back of his head goes through a fucking door frame like that one there, and yet he just gets up and walks it off like it's nothing. Like, come on, you have to have some kind of stakes, because I will see all these explosions in a Fast and Furious movie and just know that the characters are going to be fine. I mean, they try and poke fun at this with some of Roman Pierce's lines of dialogue, and I was like, oh, self-awareness, yeah, funny. And, yeah. But I think what really annoys me about this is that we all know that Han comes back, right? Han died at the end of Fast and Furious 6. Sorry. He died in Tokyo Drift, but then 4, 5, and 6 were prequels, and then he died at the end of 6 as well. We find out that Jason Statham's character, Deckard Shaw, was the one that killed him. And like the movie tries to play this off as if it's such an emotional return, like the sad music playing in the background, there's characters getting all emotional, you know, Dominic Toretto hugs him and stuff like that. It's supposed to be a gripping return and everything like that. But I felt nothing because you already revealed it in the fucking trailer. That is just something that you don't do, and it's so frustrating. Like, when I saw Han come back in the trailer, I was like, why would you do that? It's kind of like when the Guardians of the Galaxy 2 trailer came out, and like you see Ego go, I'm your father, Peter. It's like, what? Why would you say that? Why would you reveal that in the trailer? So yeah, the impact of that scene was completely undone by the fucking trailer, and it makes me question, should I even watch trailers anymore? Like, the only trailer that I really watched for Spider-Man No Way Home was the first one. I didn't bother watching anymore. Number 39 is Vivo. Now, Vivo is a completely harmless, family-friendly film. What really did it for me in some aspects was the songs. The songs it's got quite a catchy soundtrack. And it plays it off like it's this emotionally gripping thing. It tries to be a little Pixar Disney towards the end, and it just doesn't really work for me. Do I have a lot more to add than that? No. Yeah, actually I do. I now know what a kinkajou is. It's not exactly a monkey, it's like this thing right here. Number 38 is Wish Dragon, another Netflix sort of family-friendly film, which is completely harmless. Does it do much for me in terms of impact? No, it was fine. Fine, like a usual Aladdin sort of thing. The dragon is technically a genie, and at the end it's like, oh, you can have your freedom and stuff like that. I've just seen it being done better. Do I really have any more to add about this? No, not really. Moving on. Number 37 is Godzilla vs. Kong. Now, this was one of my most anticipated films of the year, and it just turned out to be... Don't get me wrong. When the monster fights throw down, they throw down hard. They're really, really entertaining, really, really good. Godzilla and Kong kicking each other's ass, but I kind of predicted what would happen from the start when I found out Mechagodzilla was in this. Because it reminded me of Batman v Superman, where you see like Wonder Woman, Batman, and Superman all standing together. And you're like, yeah, you're all going to team up at the end to fight a common enemy. That's basically what this is. Godzilla and King Kong formed together to fight Mechagodzilla, and yeah, I kind of saw that coming. Fight was awesome, but I saw it coming. There is so much stupid stuff that happens as well. It's like it devoids all kinds of logic. Now, I've seen like people say to me like, "Oh, Jim Bob, you're watching it wrong then because you're there for the carnage, you're there for the dumb shit." Yeah, I am. But it's kind of like, if you're going to do a movie that's so over the top and batshit insane, it has to have some kind of logic and some kind of path to follow, rather than just no disregard for anything. It's like, it was just really, really hard to watch. And the human stuff, don't get me started on the human stuff, it's just bland, generic human stuff that we've seen in this monster universe so far. I had the same kind of issue with Godzilla King of the Monsters. Just really, really boring human stuff, uninteresting characters, but when the fights go down with the monsters, the fights really go down. It's kind of hard to turn films like this into films because the human characters are the ones that deliver the exposition and the story and move the plot forward. I mean, because Godzilla and Kong, they're just necessarily just animals, aren't they? So, I understand that that's difficult, but this film... Other than the fight scenes, I mean, I think if there was a YouTube video where someone, like, cut the fight scenes into one huge video, I think I would rather watch that than the actual film. Number 36 is Black Widow, arguably, to me, the most disappointing film of the entire year. And there's nothing that I can add to it that hasn't already been said, but this film just came out a little too late. It should have come out years and years and years ago, way before Captain Marvel. But it's kind of like when Wonder Woman came out and Disney saw the success of a female-led superhero, they were like, oh yeah, we need to do that too, but then gave us Captain Marvel instead of Black Widow, which was really frustrating. Being it a prequel as well, this is the last time we're going to see Natasha Romanoff in anything. It's one of those films which should have been so much better. It should have had more of this. It should have had more of that. It should have had more of the family dynamic, and it just doesn't do it. And they did Taskmaster so dirty. I mean, my friend Jake said to me that he didn't really mind the character all that much, but I suppose if you go into Black Widow with no knowledge of who Taskmaster even is, then I suppose it's okay. But since I do know who Taskmaster is, I do know what this character is capable of. You know, it can copy, she, whatever, can copy moves of the other Avengers, and that's what was portrayed in the trailer. But then they make Taskmaster in this film just a mindless puppet, you know, with no emotion and stuff like that. And it just ruined the character for me, because Taskmaster... When I saw Taskmaster for the first time in the Spider-Man PS4 game, I thought that was 10 times better than what we got here. So overall, Black Widow's not a terrible film. It just should have been a hell of a lot more than it was, and that's what frustrates me the most. Florence Pugh's in this film, and I love Florence Pugh. She's good. What can I say past that? Florence Pugh's character was more interesting than Natasha. Like, Natasha was probably the least interesting character, and she's the title character. She's the protagonist. Like, what went wrong with this goddamn film? It should have been so much more than it was. I mean, okay, you can see myself getting pissed off here. Alright, I'm just going to move on. Like, Black Widow should have been a lot more, and it wasn't. So, that's really disappointing. Number 35 is Secret Magic Control Agency. Now, this is an interesting sort of film. When you watch it, it's like the story of Hansel and Gretel mixed up with this secret agency kind of thing, and I thought that was really interesting. And there's a broken relationship between Hansel and Gretel, the brother and sister. They don't technically get on. Hansel's a thief or a con man, and Gretel works for the secret agency, so there's some clashing right there. All that I found interesting, especially all the the colours and the animation and stuff like that. That's all really interesting. But I forgot about it like a few days after I watched it. Like, that's how much it didn't leave an impression on me. But yeah, it's an okay film. Like, I don't really have that much to say about it. It's just decent, but forgettable. Number 34 is A Quiet Place Part 2. Now, I was severely let down by this film as well. Like, I really didn't think that the first one needed a sequel, but obviously Hollywood, with their money lust, decided to make a sequel. And yeah, it has great acting like the first one, especially the young girl with the hearing aid. I don't know her name in real life, I do apologise. Emily Blunt kills it right here. You got Cillian Murphy, or is it Cillian Murphy? I don't know, someone correct me if you want. But yeah, he was good. But everything else about the film just made me feel like they made the creatures less threatening. And it's kind of like, now that you know how to defeat the creatures, the characters seem less afraid of them. They're kind of like walking towards them, like face to face. I mean, there's just the suspense isn't there like it was with the first one. The first film gave me like anxiety, like I didn't want to make a noise in the cinema in case this creature came out and grabbed me. It's kind of like death was instantaneous in the first film, but in this film it's like, oh, you can tiptoe around them a little more if you want to. And that just ruins the creatures for me, and yeah, disappointing stuff. Number 33 is Eternals. Now, this film, I think it could have worked a lot better as a TV show, like if you condense all this stuff into a TV show, a Disney Plus show if you want to, and stretch out the characters a little more. Because if you think about it, we have 10 brand new characters introduced into this film. And it's kind of like the film tries to stretch them all out, giving them enough to do. And just with a huge world going on, a huge world of Celestials, a lot of exposition, a lot of stuff going on between the Eternals and where they come from and what they are. These common enemies that they have. It's just all thrown into one 2 and 2.5 hour film, and it just does not do it for me. So basically, the Eternals are kind of like androids or something. I forgot the fucking word for it. What are the... What's it called? What's it called? I can't remember, but yeah, they're kind of like androids in a sense, and their job is to basically keep humanity going for so long, and then the Celestials will blow up the planet. Basically, humanity live, and the Eternals are these people that these like all-powerful beings that keep everything in check. They keep the human race going. They don't interfere in wars or anything like that. Anything to keep the human race going. I have my issues with this, obviously, because if they want to continue the human race, if they want it to thrive, I definitely think that the incident with Thanos in Endgame, Infinity War, sorry, they should have intervened in that. I know they're not supposed to, but Thanos wiped out 50% of all living life on Earth, and then he was going to do it again at the end of Endgame. He said, "I'm going to shred this planet down to its last atom." Thanos said that. Where were the Eternals? God knows. Probably in a drinking bender somewhere, smoking some weed together. I really don't know. And there's just a lot of stuff that doesn't make sense in it as well, because we've got the main character Cersei, played by Gemma Chan. She lives with a character called Sprite. Now, Sprite is a girl trapped in the body of a child who's in love with Icarus, the Superman-like character. And despite Cersei and Sprite living together for so long, years, hundreds of years, maybe thousands, I'm not sure, Sprite is in love with Icarus, and then Sprite downright betrays Cersei for Icarus, and that just doesn't make sense how you throw away that relationship for this guy. And what else can I add to it? Why give them free will? Yeah. If the Celestials really wanted the Eternals to do their bidding and keep humanity going, only for it eventually to all go to shit, why give them free will? If they're androids of some kind, program them to not do that, but now these people have free will, they have emotions, they have connections to people, so it's likely that the Eternals are going to turn around and go, yeah, I'm going to stop you. there's just so many inconsistencies in the story, and it really could have been done better, because stretch it out into a TV show and I probably would have bought it a little more, but I'm just done caring about the film. I really didn't like it. I wanted to like it. I've never really cared about it since I first heard about it. That's basically what we've got here. Number 32 is Free Guy with Ryan Reynolds. You know, Ryan Reynolds doing his thing. He's Ryan Reynoldsing. It's all fun stuff and everything like that, but when you really, really take all the references and the substance out of what's going on, you know, the video game aspect, the references to Marvel and Star Wars and all that sort of stuff, you're not really left with all that much. And I had the same issue with Ready Player One. Like, it was a fun and entertaining film, but once you remove that substance, there's not really a lot left. And that's kind of how I felt with Free Guy too. It's a fun and entertaining film. I'll probably watch it again. But did it leave an impact on me? No. Number 31 is The Suicide Squad. Now, I get that people have this quite high and they regard it as a really good film. I can see that. But I think it's because I care so little about The Suicide Squad as characters that it just didn't do it for me. Like, it's don't get it wrong. It is a significant improvement over that 2016 film. And I'm glad that some of the characters return, like Rick Flag and Margot Robbie and Viola Davis. And, we knew characters like Idris Elba and John Cena. All of it's really interesting stuff. Hilarious. The kills are funny. But I just didn't see myself that invested in it. I mean, I can't really pinpoint exactly what I didn't like about it. I think it was just the fact that I didn't care what was going on. It's like, there's a giant starfish at the end. That was pretty cool. But it's kind of like, that's the most interesting thing about film criticism, right? Because a film could have potentially not that many flaws, but if it doesn't click with you the way it clicks with someone else, you can have different opinions, and that's what I find really interesting about it. Like, it's a decent film. It is. Just not really for me, I suppose. Into the top 30 we go. Number 30, Words Bubble Up Like Soda Pop is the only brand new anime. Sorry, the second brand new anime that I saw this year, and I think it's a really cute film. I don't think it hits the emotional beats of a Studio Ghibli film or Makoto Shinkai's films like Your Name and Weathering With You, or a Silent Voice as well. It doesn't really have the emotional beats of those films, but I still really, really enjoyed it. The animation style is really, really cool. I think what I liked about it the most is that I can relate to both these leads. Like, both these leads have some kind of anxiety. You have Smile, who is this social media presence, and she covers up her face all the time with a face mask because she has, like, buck teeth and stuff like that. So she's afraid to show her smile online to people. And yeah, I resonated with that because I remember when masks were first made mandatory in the UK. I didn't like it all that much because they're irritating. You can't breathe very well in them sometimes. But it kind of lowered my anxiety when I was at work because nobody could see my smile. And I've had people tell me I've got a nice smile, but obviously when you have that kind of anxiety, you don't see it yourself. And that's basically what this film tries to implicate with Smile. Like, she doesn't see, the beauty within herself or something like that. And so I really related to that. There's the guy character too. I'm afraid I've forgotten the guy's name. I do apologise. But the guy character in this, I can also relate to him too. His kind of anxiety is like being, he's a bit of a social introvert. Like, he doesn't like to be around people all that much, and I'm kind of like that sometimes. Not to the same degree, but sometimes I will also walk down the street, put earphones in, because it lowers the possibility of someone trying to talk to you. So with him, it's social anxiety, and with Smile, it's anxiety within her appearance and stuff like that. And I just really resonated with both of them. It's a really cute film where these two characters just spend the entire summer together and develop relationships and stuff like that. Really cute film, but doesn't really hit the emotional beats that I would have liked it to have. But other than that, I don't really have a bad thing to say about it, so moving on. Number 29 is Red Notice. Now, what I like about Red Notice is that it's got Ryan Reynolds doing his Ryan Reynolds thing, it's got Dwayne Johnson doing a Dwayne Johnson thing, their chemistry is on point, the comedy is really funny in places, Gal Gadot is in this film too, and she's okay. But I think the reason why it's so low is because the action was a little bit choppy in places. It's not as clever as the film tries to implicate to you. Like, the film's like, look at this shocking twist, and I'm like, I didn't see the twist coming, but I'm just not that impressed by it. It's stuff like that. It kind of falls into the same category as like an action film that you'd watch if you wanted to watch a decent action film to waste like an hour and a half of your life or 2 hours or something like that. It's a funny film, it's entertaining, it has an entertainment value to it, it has likeable characters and stuff like that. But everything past that, it's just a film with Ryan Reynolds and Dwayne Johnson being themselves. Fun stuff, but outside of fun, I don't really get much out of it. But the scene where Ed Sheeran gets arrested was pretty funny. I'm Ed Sheeran, bitch! Number 28, Pieces of a Woman. Now, I want to acknowledge for a second that this film is top tier. Like, a lot of people will put this in their top 10, and they will do all sorts of stuff like that, but going to a point that I said before, it depends what kind of impression the film leaves on you, and if it's your cup of tea, if it resonates with you as much as it resonates with someone else. This film hit the emotional beats. I really, really liked it, but I just think it's a hard watch. It is a hard watch because, I mean, it dives into some really sensitive topics and everything like that. The leads are really good. Would I rewatch it again? Probably not. That's possibly the reason why it's so low as well, is because I only saw it once. I saw it at the start of the year, and I haven't watched it again since, and maybe my memory is a bit vague on that too. Rewatching it, I'm pretty sure it might be pumped up a lot more, but as for now, it's a really, really good film, which I've only seen once. Didn't click with me all that much, and that's why it's just where it is. Like, I don't really have any criticisms for it. It's decent. Yeah, it's kind of like, when you watch a film, you can see all the good things about it, but if you don't necessarily have fun with it, it's like you put it lower than some other things. It's like kind of strange how it works, because I'm pretty sure the films I'm going to mention next, there are plenty of them which Pieces of Woman should be ahead, but it's my opinion. So if I didn't have as much fun with that one as I did with that one, I would probably lower it a little bit. You know, rankings can be disjointed at times. It's really difficult to pinpoint these things without trying to keep your audience happy, keep yourself happy, but I always want to be honest with myself, and Pieces of a Woman is a good film. There were just other films after it which I thought were more interesting. Number 27 is Batman The Long Halloween Part 2. Now, I definitely liked Part 1 a lot better, because Part 1 had this kind of this interesting story, it had the origin, it had the build-up towards what we're going for. Part 2 doesn't necessarily feel like a sequel to me. Don't get me wrong, it continues the story, but it feels like half of a film. Like, for example, if you were to jump into Jurassic Park, for example, and you were to jump into the T-Rex scene almost immediately with nothing prior to it. That's kind of how this film felt when I first watched it, because it jumps into this thing with Poison Ivy kidnapping Bruce Wayne and keeping him, like, mentally under this kind of spell or whatever for God knows how many months, and I was like, where did this come from? Everything else after it's decent. There's interesting stuff with Harvey Dent, and like it turns out that Harvey Dent's wife is actually the holiday killer, and that was interesting. But it's like I'm watching half of a film. It doesn't feel like a sequel that stands on its own like a sequel should. It just feels like Batman The Long Halloween Part 1 happened, and then the second one sort of wanted to continue that story, but cut out half of the film before it. That's kind of how it felt for me. Number 26 is Don't Look Up. Now, this film I saw quite late, obviously, because it came out New Year's Eve. I actually saw it this year, but it technically came out last year, so I'm going to do that. So anyway, I really, really enjoyed the film. I think that the politics will irritate you quite a lot, especially if you have a political stance on certain things that happen in the film. I'm not going to give you mine, obviously, because that's not what we do on this channel. We talk about films and TV and games. We don't talk about politics. So Leonardo DiCaprio and Jennifer Lawrence find this comet, right? And they go to the President of the United States, played by Meryl Streep, and the Vice President, played by Jonah Hill, and they present this thing to them and say, what are we going to do about it? And the president completely shrugs it off like it's absolutely nothing, and it takes a lot of mainstream attention and social media presence for them to actually do something. And so it kind of portrays like the ignorance of people in the world, you know, brushing things off like this, you know, politicians, political corruption and everything like that. And I thought it was really interesting stuff. Like, it's supposed to be a comedy as well, and I giggled at a couple of things. But I found myself, when these people were being ignorant to what was happening at hand. I found myself getting more annoyed at the ignorant characters than I did finding it funny. And I think if the whole film was based around just a simple presence, like the entire thing was a comedy, then I probably would have been okay with it. But there's some serious stuff that goes down in this film. And just to see these ignorant people brushing off serious issues like they're nothing, that was frustrating to watch. But overall, I think the last hour really did it for me. It's really entertaining stuff. I almost turned it off after the first hour because I was a little bored. But then the last hour really picks up and things get a lot better. So yeah, Leonardo DiCaprio, the guy just continues over and over again to prove what a great actor he is. Jennifer Lawrence, it's great to see her back in a film. It's been years. And I think they both work well together. I've always liked Jennifer Lawrence, and I've always liked Leo DiCaprio, so seeing them back, seeing them in a film together is, it's really good. But yeah, overall, I must point out as well that Ariana Grande is also in this film, and she plays like a fictional kind of singer, but she essentially plays herself. And you can see, like, another reason why it's frustrating is because the media are paying more attention to this breakup story between her and another celebrity than a comet that's going to wipe out fucking planet Earth. And what I really liked about the ending as well is that the comet actually hits. The comet actually kills everybody. And the corrupt politicians are the ones that get away in some kind of like a cryoslip pod and coming back to Earth thousands of years later. Like, would events like this actually play out in the real world? I reckon people would be very ignorant to it and shrug it off as some kind of hoax and stuff like that. That's what I found most interesting about it. But yeah, it's a decent film. I enjoyed it. Number 25, we are almost there, guys, is The Tomorrow War. Now, I've seen a lot of negative attention come to this film, and while I understand the negative attention, I did like this film quite a bit. All I really wanted was a big alien invasion film with a lot of action starring Chris Pratt, and that's pretty much what I got. So I really enjoyed the film. Again, it brings me back to my same point all the time. It's kind of annoying when you have to, like, explain exactly why you think a certain thing. Like, basically, I can see the flaws in this film and why some people don't like it. Reason why it's so high is because I was generally entertained by what I was seeing. I was having fun with the film. I could definitely see why people don't like it. But to me, I had fun, and that's probably why it's so high. If it wasn't such a fun action adventure, say for example, the action was toned down a lot, and it gave us action on the same level as something you'd see in, like, generic action films like you see on TV sometimes, then yeah, the film will be a lot lower. But I generally had a good time with what I was seeing. The whole message of family and stuff like that, it didn't really do it for me all that much, but I generally had a good time. Number 24 is Love and Monsters. It's got Dylan O'Brien in it. Now, what I really enjoyed about this film was the whole world's been taken over by these monsters, and there's factions of people everywhere and stuff like that. But what I think let me down a little bit was that it played it off as some kind of comedy, like some crazy stuff happening and everything like that. But I don't think it delved anywhere near into the comedy as much as it should have. But again, I really had fun with the film. I don't really have that much to add about it, really. I mean, I like the relationship between Dylan O'Brien's character and Jessica Henwick. I mean, who wouldn't want to date Jessica Henwick? Like, the woman's gorgeous. But yeah, I think other than that, I just had a generally good time with the film because I do like those post-apocalyptic kind of films, which aren't just zombies. I mean, you've got these monsters running around like that. I thought there was some emotional beats in the film which were pretty good. I just wish it went a little all out on the wacky side of it, because it definitely portrays it like that from the first couple of scenes. Like, I thought it was going to be something like Zombieland, which is just completely batshit insane, but still has a heartwarming message in it at the same time. And I was kind of hoping that this would do the same, but it was entertaining enough for me to put it as high as I have. Number 33 is Raya and the Last Dragon. Now, I remember I made a review for this film, and it's on my channel if you want to watch it. That was all based off of first watch, and I've watched it again since, and it dipped a little bit for me. Like, I don't think, again, like, similar issues that I have with Love and Monsters, is that I wish they went a little more in on something. With this one, I think it was the emotional beats. I wish they dived into a little more of it. Like, I do see where they were going with this. I do like the message of, like, having trust issues and stuff like that. Like, Raya doesn't trust anybody because of what's happened. And I wish they went a little more in on that, like, just stretch it out a little bit more, give us more moments of, like, emotional and a bit more clarity and stuff like that. But I think the reason why it's so high is because it's more of an appreciation kind of thing, because I think the film is gorgeous to look at, the action scenes are pretty good too, and it has a really interesting concept of, like, these big enemies that are taking over the world, turning people into stone, but they don't necessarily look like a creature, they're just like a huge blobby mist of purple mist and stuff like that. And that was interesting to me, and it's one of the most original ideas that Disney have come up with in so long, rather than remaking everything, their old stuff, and giving us bland sequels like Frozen 2. I really enjoyed Raya and the Last Dragon. I think it could have been a lot better than it actually was, but I still enjoyed it. I still stand by most of what I said in my review, but obviously if I were to redo that review now, I would dive into a little more specifics, that it's not all as great as I pointed out in that video. And yeah, but other than that, I really enjoyed the film. Number 22 is Luca. Now, this is where, like, films have a big jump, because I think that Luca is far better than Raya and the Last Dragon, so there's like a bit of a leap here. It's kind of weird. So, anyway, with this film, I really liked the emotional beats, because Pixar have always been known for this. They have interesting concepts, and 9 times out of 10, they will knock them out the park. They've had a couple of mishaps, mishaps around the way, like Cars and The Good Dinosaur. But Luca, I definitely didn't feel like it was all concept and no execution, because the relationship between these two kids is just heartwarming to watch. I mean, you have these sea monsters, and one of them wants to be on land. He meets someone else who chills on land all the time. They want to escape together, explore this new world together. The parents try to find them. They develop relationships with humans. It's really, really heartwarming stuff. And you kind of think when you see Pixar and Disney films that, can they really get any better on the animation department? Because when I saw Frozen for the first time, I thought, this animation's gorgeous. There is no way on earth that it's going to get any better than that, and Disney and Pixar seem to keep surprising me every single time with just how good the animation is. And Pixar have always been known for making good films, and that's exactly how I felt with this one. It's still a really good film, it's heartwarming, family entertainment. The only thing I do have an issue with is that towards the end, when these this whole family of sea monsters is now exposed to the general public, they're accepted pretty fast. Now, I get it, you need to wrap your film up and stuff like that, but I think they could have gone just a little more out on this, and maybe, a little more than what we got. But still, Luca's a damn entertaining film, and really charming and heartwarming. Number 21 is Space Sweepers. Now, this was actually a surprise for me, because I saw it on Netflix, the trailer, and I thought, generic space adventure thing, it might look good, but then when I watch it, it just leaves an impression in my brain. But Space Sweepers generally surprise me. I like that it's a group of people who just they're doing their own thing to try and survive this world and what the whole universe revolves around now, which is collecting space parts just to try and make a living, and then they eventually team up to fight a common enemy. It's really, really good stuff like that. But what I really liked, it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard sometimes to watch. But bear with me a second. So basically, they have these like earpieces where they can translate automatically what they're saying. I mean, it's a Korean film, but some other people will be speaking like different languages, like English or French or German or something like that. And they can understand what they're saying through these earpieces when they're having conversations. So, like, there could be like a full-on English guy talking to a Korean and having a normal conversation, but he's speaking in Korean and this guy's speaking in English. And it's kind of hard to focus on the subtitles sometimes, because if you put subtitles with closed captions on Netflix, and you sometimes start to get a little bit confused with what's going on, because sometimes when characters are speaking in English, the subtitles won't pop up, and then they do for Koreans, because, so you're kind of like, you're listening to this English guy speaking, and you're looking at his face, and then suddenly a different language will happen, and then the subtitles will be at the bottom, and you kind of miss it, so you're looking down really quickly at the screen. So I found myself rewinding bits quite a bit to try and see what other people said. But other than that, I think this is a damn entertaining film with a really interesting story. I like how all these all these international people can all just have a conversation and all talk to each other. Something like that would be amazing. I mean, learning new languages is fascinating as well. But like, imagine how much easier it would be if you had a headpiece like that to just like translate whatever people are saying. Right now, we are in the top 20. We are almost there. Thank you so much for sticking with me so far. I'm getting really tired now, but I'm gonna go all out with this and finish it off because this is actually my second take, and I'm doing so much better this time than I did last time, and I'm a little impressed with myself. Not to be big-headed, but I am. All right. So anyway, in the top 20. Is Zack Snyder's Justice League. Now, there were a lot of people that said they didn't really care about the Snyder Cut, and neither did I to begin with, actually. I didn't care about it at all. I didn't watch it in cinemas or anything like that, or stream it. I just bought it on Blu-ray when it came out. And it's kind of structured like a TV show, like when you see those TV shows pop up on Sky One or something like that, and they have like part 1, part 2, part 3. But it doesn't feel disjointed. Like, I was never bored while watching this. It's a significant improvement over that Joss Whedon one that we got in 2017. Because thanks to Joss Whedon's Justice League, I now have a saying, right? I call it, I've been Justice Leagued. And that kind of means that when I watch a film for the first time, I enjoy it. But then on a couple of rewatches, it gets worse. That's what happened. When I first started noticing those kind of patterns in certain films, it was when I watched Justice League, because I really enjoyed Justice League when it first came out in 2017. I was like, oh yeah, this is good. I rewatched it and thought, and then it got worse and worse and worse. I started to feel the same way with like The Last Jedi and stuff like that, and The Rise of Skywalker. I generally enjoyed both films when they came out. Realised what messes they were afterwards, and so I really wasn't feeling optimistic for a Snyder Cut. Because Batman v Superman wasn't all that great either, in my opinion. I know it does have its following, which is great. So when this film came out, I was generally surprised by what I was seeing. The extra stuff that was added in. The comedy is almost completely removed. I mean, Ezra Miller still has a couple of quirky, character lines where he's like charming and stuff like that. They removed scenes like the Flash falling on top of Wonder Woman's breasts, and the Lasso Troop being wrapped around Aquaman, and he's spouting his feelings about Wonder Woman. Like, all that's taken out, and we're just given a much darker tone. But I think it fits with what's going on. We have Darkseid in now, who's really cool. Steppenwolf is so much more of an exhilarating villain. Like, he's not just this bland, one-dimensional villain anymore. Like, I think this version is definitely the version that I'll be watching if I ever rewatch the DCEU. Which is going to be really interesting, because I think the DCEU had a lot of potential to be a lot better than it actually was, and it's a shame that it's gone down the route that it has, and that we probably won't see any more of it after this. Do I have issues? Yes, I do, because basically it kind of feels like Lord of the Rings Return of the King kind of aesthetic, where you it has multiple endings, but the thing is, like, in Lord of the Rings Return of the King, these endings amounted to what we already saw. But these multiple endings in the Snyder Cut are like post-credit scenes or something like that, trying to tease something else, which we just know is not going to happen now. Like the whole thing with the Joker and Batman, and then Batman saying the F word and stuff like that, it just felt so disjointed. And I thought, what even is this? Like, why bother to show this? Like, you could have just ended it as you did with the first version. And but yeah, like, other than that, I don't really have a bad thing to say about it. I mean, actually, it did kind of get annoying in some action sequences with the amount of slow-mo they're doing, and whenever Wonder Woman pops up on screen, it was always, and that got a bit annoying as well. But other than that, this is definitely the better version of the two movies that we got of Justice League. Number 19, we have Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Now, this is a film I was excited for. I've always liked kung fu sort of films, with the Chinese kind of setting and stuff like that. And it's Marvel as well, so I was interested to see where they could take it. For a long time, it felt like something the MCU wouldn't normally do, but then it has a huge fight at the end, a lot of CGI, and I thought, oh, okay, you're just giving us another Marvel film. That's not necessarily a bad thing, because I do think there's a lot to like about it. There's this guy, and he's, disjointed from his father. He's on the run from his father, and his father eventually brings him back, wants him to take his place by his side, stuff like that, yada, yada, yada. The action is really well filmed. The choreography is really cool. I just think they could have gone a little more out with this, and maybe not make it so Marvel-y. Not that making a film Marvel-y is a bad thing, but I just thought they were going to go in a different direction. It kind of felt like I was just watching a really, really decent kung fu film with Marvel aesthetics in it. That's kind of what it felt like. I was just expecting more, I think. And it's so weird. It's so weird how film criticism works as well, because I praised the Justice League Snyder Cut a lot more than I have this film, but yet this film is higher on the list. It's interesting, right? But I'm doing my best to explain exactly how I feel. It may sound a little contradictory in places, and I may, I may rewatch this later and go, maybe I shouldn't have said that, but, who cares? I'm having fun here. Number 18 is Green Snake. Now, not a lot of people have heard about this. Green Snake is a sequel to White Snake. Now, White Snake and Green Snake are basically animation properties from a Chinese company called... Right, so the company's called Light Chaser Animation, and I started to get into these films recently by finding some on Netflix, and I think they're really good, really action-packed. It's kind of like America have this huge market for making decent films in like a Chinese sort of scenery, and it's like American Chinese films are doing better than actual Chinese films in the animation department. So China were like, no, we're going to make our own little universe of action Chinese films, and the ones that I've seen so far are really good. Green Snake is about Verta, who is the Green Snake. If you haven't seen White Snake, I suggest watching it to understand what I'm saying. But Green Snake is about Verta, the sister of Blanca, who was the White Snake in the first one, and she's transported into this world. I forgot what the world's called. But it's kind of interesting because she's trapped in this scenario, and the only way she can get out is by doing specific things, because basically people who get thrown in there are there because of an obsession that's eating them up. And Verta's obsession is her sister relationship with Blanca. And so it's like a post-apocalyptic sort of thing where everyone's out for themselves, everyone fights for themselves. It's really interesting. The action is absolutely exhilarating. The action is so good in the film. The only issue I do have with it is that the film doesn't think to slow down for even a second to stretch out story arcs a little bit. It's kind of like we have one action scene and then a bit of dialogue, and then bang, we have more action. Don't get me wrong, the film was fun and energetic, but the only issue I have with it is that it needed to slow down just a little bit for us to soak in what was going on. It's like if you miss dialogue for even a second, you might fall a little behind on what's going on, because there is a lot going on. It delivers a lot of exposition. There's a lot of explaining happening with certain characters, so you need to pay attention. And I watched this in subtitles as well. I don't recommend watching the dub. The dub is horrific. Not as bad as the Squid Game dub, but bad. A bad dub. So I've watched Green Snake twice. I watched it once on my own in Mandarin, and then I watched it again with my daughter in the English dub, and the English dub is just awful. Some of the dialogue is cringy and stuff like that, but yeah, overall I suggest checking out these films if you haven't seen them. Remember, Light Chaser Animation, and they have a couple of films in there which are really, really good. Green Snake is a really fun and entertaining film. I just wish it would slow down a little bit. Number 17, we have Batman The Long Halloween Part 1. Now, I'm not really big on Batman animation until just this year. I watched Mask of the Phantasm. I thought that was really good. That was the first time I ever saw it, and then went straight to The Long Halloween afterwards. Now, my worry really with going into Mask of the Phantasm is that I didn't want to watch The Long Halloween before Mask of the Phantasm, in worry of dated animation and stuff like that. But Mask of the Phantasm still is better than what we have here. That's not to say that what we have here isn't good. So there's basically a killer called Holiday. Why is he called Holiday? because he kills like these crime bosses and stuff like that on specific holidays of the year, like Christmas, Halloween, Easter, Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, Father's Day, Happy Hanukkah, Thanksgiving, whatever you can think of, stuff like that. And so Batman is basically not a detective at this point, and he learns that he needs to be a detective if he wants to reach his full potential. So he teams up with Harvey Dent and Jim Gordon, and the dynamic between the three characters is good. I think Jensen Ackles is a really good voice actor for Batman. He's now Kevin Conroy, but of what I see here, it's really good. Troy Baker is back as the Joker too, and Troy Baker's kind of the actor that you get when you can't get Mark Hamill to play an animated Joker, and that's absolutely fine because I really enjoyed him in this role. I thought he was really good. So yeah, Batman the Long Halloween Part 1, I recommend watching the first one and the second one back to back rather than taking a break, because if you take a break, the second one will feel a bit disjointed. Like, maybe overall they should have just linked the two films together and made them about 3 hours long. I think that would have been a little bit better. Yes, I know that other people have also said that, but I agree. I'm not copying what they say, I just agree with what they say. Number 16, we are so close to the end now, guys, is Ride or Die. This is a Netflix Japanese thriller. It's about two women who are completely in love with each other, and one of them is being abused by her partner. So she asks this other girl that she's in love with to kill the husband, and then they run away together. But what I really liked about it is the dedication that these two women have to each other. The love that they have for each other is what will is what keeps them from, you know, turning each other in, for example. I mean, because the one girl brutally murders the husband, and the other girl doesn't even bat an eye. And that was really interesting to me, because it's like, never give up on the person you love kind of thing. And I just found the relationship between these two women really good and interesting, even towards the end, when the one girl eventually does get caught by the police. The other girl's like, I'll wait for you. I was like, that's kind of sweet. And I just thought the performances were really strong as well from the two women. There's a sex scene, which I can't say that I didn't enjoy, but I did. And yeah, overall I just think it's a really entertaining, gripping thriller drama sort of thing. And yeah, there's some great stuff coming out of Japan. So yeah, I'll check it out. Number 15 is... okay, I'm going to apologise in advance if I mispronounce the character's name in this title, because the way it's pronounced in Mandarin, I can't pronounce it for the life of me, but I'm just going to say the way that it's spelt. Is okay, so New Gods, Nezha Reborn is another Light Chaser animation film, and this is the first one I actually watched. What I really like about Nezha is the world that it builds around it. It's like a dystopian world where like water is really limited in some places. It kind of reminded me of the world in Arcane, you know, League of Legends and stuff like that. It's like there's a shortage of water, there's a hierarchy going on with some people who are up above everyone else, and these people are poor. It's got an interesting story behind it too. It's like this guy is actually a celestial being called Nezha, and he has to control his powers if he wants to stop the evil bad guy and stuff like that. And it's just like, if you picture an anime, for example, and how over the top the action can be in that, it's kind of like that, but in 3D. But obviously, the only 3D anime film which I can think of is that new Studio Ghibli film, Earwig something, which I haven't seen, which I heard some mixed reception about. But this film, it kind of does what White Snake doesn't, and it kind of does what Green Snake doesn't, and it balances between, it balances the pacing and the action better than Green Snake, if you ask me. Like, there is time to soak in what the characters are feeling. And yeah, I'm also a sucker for like badass protagonists on motorcycles. I mean, you see this guy riding through the streets doing these really cool stunts, taking out guys. It's just really awesome stuff. The animation's so cool. I recommend watching this for the fun factor. It doesn't have the most deep and emotionally gripping story, but I was really intrigued by what I saw, and it's definitely one of the biggest surprises of the year for me. And the introduction to Light Chaser animation, which I'll probably be checking out more films of them in the future, and I'm looking forward to it. Again, I recommend you watch it with the Mandarin subtitles and not the English dub, because the English dub on this is also trash. Coming at number 14 is The Empty Man. Now, it's so frustrating when I think of this film and how much bad reception, well, not bad reception, sorry, it bombed at the box office and just nobody gave a shit about it. This film deserves a cult following. It's so interesting and intriguing. Now, I like those kind of horror films which make you question everything that you've known in the past. They make you think, what the hell even just happened? And that's basically what The Empty Man does. It has a really interesting story. Basically, the main character the entire time is some kind of vessel for the Empty Man, or he became the new vessel, sorry. And throughout the entire film, there's like little nods to what's going on, but the pacing never feels boring. And I'm so surprised that this film bombed. I mean, it could be like a COVID-related thing, or just nobody gave a shit about it. But when I watched it, I was really intrigued, and it's just so disappointing that the film didn't get the reception that I think it deserves. I think The Empty Man is a really good horror film. Please, guys, watch The Empty Man. But if it doesn't get supported financially, of course it's going to bomb, and it's a real shame. Like, I generally like horror films like this. The ones that make you question what's going on, rather than just something popping out at me and scaring me. The ending did lose me a little bit, but overall, I was having too much fun with The Empty Man to be bothered by that. So, yeah. The Empty Man, it's a really good horror film. Please check it out. Number 13 is Oxygen, or Oxygene, I think. It's basically a French thriller. A French filler? Oh. It's a French thriller about a woman that's trapped inside this like box. It's kind of like the film Buried. I think it's called Buried with Ryan Reynolds. And I like these kind of stories because I remember I was intrigued by these sort of stories where a character is trapped in a claustrophobic environment and they have to find a way to get out. Since I watched CSI Las Vegas, basically in season 5, I believe it is, there is a 2-part episode where Nick Stokes is trapped in a box, and the rest of the crowd have been trying to find a way to get him out. It was so suspenseful, and that's the kind of suspense that I felt while watching Oxygen. The performances were really good. The film's completely in French. Don't watch the dub again. Like, I'm going to repeat that quite a lot when I talk about foreign films. Like, just don't watch the dub for anything. Like, anime, I kind of let it slide sometimes. But with live action stuff, definitely just watch it in full subtitles. The lead actress, I thought she was really good. She brought a lot of energy to the screen. Being trapped in this situation with the oxygen level in this cryo chamber going down every single minute. She doesn't know what's going on with her, what's happening and stuff like that. What loses me a little bit is something that it's kind of like there was a solution for her to conserve oxygen the entire time, but she kind of didn't know that at the time. And so it kind of loses you a little bit when you think, like, if there was a solution to your problem the entire time, but you didn't know about it, it takes away the thrills a little bit. But overall, it didn't dampen my enjoyment of the film. So anyway, Oxygen, despite a couple of issues that I think it does have, like I had a conversation with one of my friends, and I do like it a little bit less now. Like, it was in my top 5, and then we talked about it, me and my friend. I watched it again, and I thought, yeah, I still like what I see, but I do see what he's trying to say here, so that's why it's a bit lower now. So yeah, but it's a really interesting film. If you like films where someone is trapped in a situation, they're trying to find their way out, they don't know what's going on with them, they're like shitting themselves the entire time, in complete torture because they don't know what's going on, Oxygen is a go-to, if you ask me. Number 12 is The Sound of Metal. Now, this film is mesmerizing in a lot of ways. Like, I like the idea that this like metal drummer loses his hearing, and it's kind of like he's so desperate to actually get his hearing back that he sells all of his stuff, his RV, his musical equipment, to try and get the money to pay for this surgery to fix his hearing. And when he eventually does, it's not exactly what he thought it was. There's a lot of distortion in the voice, like he can hear, but it's like listening to bad audio. And he kind of thought that maybe this isn't what I want, and then comes to terms with the fact that he is deaf now and embraced the silence, which I think is really, really heartwarming. Riz Ahmed is fantastic in this film, one of the standouts of the year. He's so good in this film because it's kind of a story that builds up the fact that you know, he's trying to learn to live with being deaf, but he still can't let go of the fact that there could be a chance that he could hear again at the same time, which goes against completely what this special group are trying to help him with. And so eventually he gets booted off this group because the guy that runs the group is like, I'm sorry, this goes against what I believe in. Maybe there's a chance for this. Maybe there's a chance for Ruben, the main character, Riz Ahmed, to come back to this thing. But it's just really, really heartwarming to see, like, this guy eventually coming to terms with the silence that he can no longer hear and just embracing it, and it's just beautiful. Coming at number 11 is Encanto. Now, Disney have returned to form with this film. Like, this film is damn charming. Now, me and my daughter have probably sat down and watched this about 3 times since it aired on Disney+. We watched it in the cinema as well when it came out. And I just like almost everything about this film. It's like there's a main girl called Mirabelle, and she lives in this family called the Madrigals, who have these special gifts that can help them, help out with the family and how to make everyone's lives a bit easier. And Mirabelle is the only one without this gift, and she's kind of got some like inner insecurities about it, that all of her sisters and brothers are special and she's not, kind of thing. And then the ending is kind of like Mirabelle's gift the entire time was to bring this family back together, this broken family with insecurities about their gifts, and embrace how they can make their lives better despite having these gifts. Like, there's Mirabelle's sister Louisa, who is the super strong one. She can lift anything from a donkey to a fucking house. And but it's pressure, you know? And she kind of feels like disjointed in herself, because it's like she has this ability, people expect so much of her, so she crumbles under the emotional pressure of it all. She's strong here, but not so much in here, and the film kind of realizes this with all of Mirabelle's family, that they need to sort of come to terms with the fact that they have these gifts, but they're still people as well. And that's what I think the message of Encanto portrays well the most. Plus the songs are really catchy too. I think this is the best Disney soundtrack that we've had for a while. I mean, I love the songs. I love Colombia, Mi Encanto. I love Family Madrigal. I love Pressure Surface. Like, the soundtrack is damn catchy, and I listen to most of these songs on repeat sometimes when I'm on my way to work and stuff like that, because it's just that likeable, that heartwarming. Mirabelle is a damn likeable character. Like, I think this is the best Disney have made since bringing up Moana in 2016 with the Disney princess sort of character line that they're known for. Mirabelle is damn likeable, a damn likeable person. She's relatable. The characters are relatable. The family's relatable. The dynamic, the drama between the family is also really likeable, and you can resonate with every single one of them. And that's what I really like about Encanto. I think Encanto is a damn charming Disney film, and I suggest checking it out. Right, so we have made it to that point. I had to film this on separate days if you're wondering why the hat and stuff like that. So, anyway, it is time for the top 10 movies that I saw in 2021. It has been, I wouldn't say the best year of film overall, but it's been pretty decent for the most part. I mean, there's a lot of forgettable stuff on my list, but these top 10 movies are the ones that resonated with me the most, the ones that I had the most enjoyment out of, and the ones which I would rewatch more considerably than the others. So, there is no right or wrong answers here. Let me know your list down below. I'd love to hear it. Alright, so let's get into the top 10. Number 10 is The Last Duel. Now, what really, really disappoints me about this is the fact that the film flopped. It flopped. And a bit like The Empty Man, because The Empty Man, to me, was a really good film as well. But The Last Duel is kind of like a drama, medieval type story mixed with a bit of action. The action scenes, by the way, they are brutal. You see like limbs get cut off, you see like practical blood and everything like that. It's not CGI. The set pieces are amazing. It's all completely actors doing these action scenes. It's not like it's full of CGI clown troopers like in Attack of the Clowns and stuff like that. But I think what intrigues me the most is actually it's kind of depicts that everyone has a different version of the truth. Now, what I mean by that is that there are 3 different takes in this story. You have Matt Damon's character's side of the story, you have the wife character, I've forgotten her name, I do apologise, and then you have Adam Driver's. Specifically, it goes the order: Matt Damon, Adam Driver, and then the wife. So it's kind of like you get this guy's version of the truth, then this guy's version of the truth, and then this person's view of the truth as well. So it's kind of like, no matter what happens, I don't think we'll ever know what truly happened between these characters in the past. So the story is about quite a touchy subject. It's the subject of, I don't even like saying the word, so I'm just going to spell it out for you. The R word. The R word is one of the most dreadful things that can happen to anybody. And that's what, according to Matt Damon's character and the wife character, according to them, Adam Driver's character performed this horrible act on the wife. And Matt Damon's character is obviously defending the wife, he's saying this happened and that happened. Adam Driver's character, on the other hand, is saying that it wasn't that. But what the film shows us, what he did was still really bad. Maybe not to the same degree, but still bad enough. And obviously back then, laws were very, very different. I mean, the justice system right now is all over the place, but back then it was straightforward pretty much, if you did this, you're dead. And that's basically what implicates here. So they go to court, and when a court thing can't be decided, like Adam Driver just doesn't admit it, or because obviously he doesn't think that he did it. So the solution that the courtroom have is battle to the death, and whoever comes out on top will be the one who has the charges dropped all against them. And so it depicts these two best friends who have fought in many wars over the years together, and they're just duking it out, trying to kill each other. It was really heartbreaking stuff, and even towards the end, where Matt Damon's character does come out on top, he's got Adam Driver's character at knife point, and he's like, confess, 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 and he's like, I didn't do it. So Matt Damon's friend dies at his hand, still denying it. That's heartbreaking. But whatever actually happened, I don't think we'll actually know. But it's a great drama and a great gripping story. The performances overall are really good. Adam Driver was a standout to me in this film. And I'd say, if you can, support the film financially, because a film like this does not deserve to be, it doesn't deserve to flop. It deserves a big following, lots of money. And overall, I really enjoyed The Last Duel. It is a really goddamn good film. At number 9, we have The Mitchells vs. the Machines. Now, this is actually one of the biggest surprises of the film for me as well. I think it's by the same animators that did Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs and Spider-Verse, and the way the animation style is blended into this film is absolutely breathtakingly gorgeous. I mean, the visuals are incredible. While throwing in a family dynamic with such heart and charisma, this family is broken. Well, technically the daughter's relationship is broken with the father, and they're trying to mend things along the way. Like, he's trying to be the best possible dad that he can. They're throwing all of this into the mix, involving a robot invasion that's taken over Earth by some crazy AI, and it's just so bizarre that all these elements just work well together. Family drama, great visuals, in a robot invasion, and this family are practically humanity's last hope. And you see this development as they go through different stages of trying to find ways to stop these robots while trying to mend themselves as a family at the same time. And I think the message that it tries to imply as well is that just because you're weird, someone text me. Just because you're weird, it doesn't mean that you're different, or you should be treated any differently at all. Because it implies that at the end, when the family are doing their usual wacky stuff, they're doing their, like a howl, I think it is. I think that's like a family goofy thing that they just do together. And people are giving them looks like this, like what are you doing? And they just don't give a shit. That's amazing. Plus the fact that it has a cracking soundtrack. At this point, it's like the animators in this film can do no wrong. Spider-Verse was a great film. Spider-Verse is probably my all-time favourite animated film. The Mitchells vs. the Machines is a great action-packed adventure for family. And I think adults and kids will get a kick out of this. Moving on. Coming in at number 8 is Dune. Now, Dune was one film which I wasn't particularly interested in seeing. I've never watched the original 80s film. I've never read the book either. I just knew that it was going to be a damn long film. But after seeing reviews of it, I just had to check it out for myself. And what I have to praise here is that the film is stunning. It does feel incomplete, but that does mean that we just get more of it. I think there's going to be a part 2 at least. We have tons of great talent in this film. I mean, Jason Momoa is in this. Zendaya for the little part that she had. We have Timothy. I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. I do try sometimes. We have Dave Bautista. We have Stellan Skarsgård, Oscar Isaac, Rebecca Ferguson. There's a stellar cast right here. And although the film could feel like it's dragging in places, the story it leads up to is extremely interesting. I recommend paying close attention because if you drift away for a couple of seconds or something like that, you can miss something important. There's basically these different factions of people, and the Emperor, who's the person who's higher up, wants specific people to mine something called spice, which I think is like space fuel or something like that. It can fuel the spaceships and stuff like that. So it's probably one of the rarest substances in the entire universe. And when Oscar Isaac's faction is like elected to be the new spice miners after so many years of someone else doing it, it turns out they're actually set up to be completely wiped out. So I don't stretch this video out any longer than it needs to be. Dune is a visual masterpiece and a really interesting take on the story, and I'm just intrigued to see more. I think watching Dune and Dune Part 2 back to back will be a much more satisfying experience than just watching Dune by itself, because I'm not really sure when the second Dune is coming out, or if it's coming out. It depends how well it does financially. But I have no doubt in mind that one will be made, because this film is just gorgeous, and I recommend checking it out. Dune is a great film. Number 7 is Last Night in Soho. Now, a big standout here is Thomasin McKenzie. I mean, I knew I recognised her from somewhere when I was watching the film, because I was like, hang on, I know her from somewhere. And she was actually in Jojo Rabbit, and she was good in that too. So basically, her character is having visions of the past, of the 60s. Whenever she goes to sleep at night, she wakes up in the 60s, kind of envisioned in the body of somebody else. She's not actually in the body of someone else, but she sees things from this character's perspective. The character is Sandy, played by Anya Taylor-Joy. And the thing about Anya Taylor-Joy as well is that she just has the ability to be good in whatever she's in. Even if she's in something bad like New Mutants, she was still the most interesting character. And you know an actor's talent is really stretched out and really, really good if they can be in a bad film and still be good. In this case, though, Anya Taylor-Joy is really good in this film, but Thomasin McKenzie stands out more to me. You can see it in the visual design where, like, Anya Taylor-Joy's character is in the 60s, but it's actually Thomasin McKenzie's character envisioning that. You can see it when you see Anya Taylor-Joy walk past a mirror, but in the mirror it's Thomasin McKenzie in the reflection rather than Anya Taylor-Joy. It's pretty interesting, and then you see, like, she sees that the 60s aren't all that. Like, there's something about the 60s that speaks to Thomasin McKenzie's character. But then she realises the brutality of what it was like back then, you know, men taking advantage of women and stuff like that. But the movie doesn't throw that message in your face like all men bad. It doesn't feel forced to me. It feels like it's something that should be recognised. I wouldn't particularly call it scary, I wouldn't call it scary at all, but it is really, really interesting. It's dark, it's gritty, great performances. The ending lost me slightly, but not that much. Overall, Last Night in Soho, I really enjoyed the film. And yeah, this is another film which didn't perform very well at the box office. This is just the era that we live in now, with a pandemic or people going, I'll just watch this when it comes out on Blu-ray. I mean, even I say that sometimes, so I'm no saint here. But, you know, I suppose I'm self-aware at least. Coming in at number 6, now, this is something which I haven't seen on anybody's list at all. And there's a debate that I have in my head all the time. Can you match up documentaries next to movies? Like, is that fair? It's still a question which I'm trying to figure out today. But until I can see a decent argument, I'm going to put documentaries in my list anyway. I mean, I did it last year with Taylor Swift's documentary and the Blackpink's documentary. I put it in my top list of the year. So anyway, this documentary is called Found. It's on Netflix, and it's about basically these 3 orphan girls who live in America but were born in China. They were all left behind by their parents when they were young, and they sort of managed to find each other. Turns out they're all related, they're all cousins, and then they embark on a journey to China with the help of this specialist person to try and find their biological family. And it's just a deep and emotionally gripping documentary, like seeing these girls just heartbroken over the fact that they were left behind as a kid. I mean, one of them in particular was left in a basket on a street corner, but it was a busy street corner, so people were like passing by and everything like that, so they were spotted almost immediately. But still, that's brutal. I think it has something to do with China's law of a certain amount of kids. I could be wrong there, so don't take that as fact. But seeing these girls like bond together and embark on a journey to try and find their biological parents, one of them doesn't really want to find them. They visit like the old orphanage where they were born, meet their old nannies. They try and learn Mandarin because they don't know Mandarin, because they were born in America, so they have full American accents, they speak English. But what I can praise most about it is that the American families that took these girls in do not treat them any differently. They love them as if they're own. And I just found myself bawling like a baby while watching this thing. It was just a gorgeous story implicated in real life. I mean, I think that's what documentaries do pretty well, is that you see these heart-gripping stories, but now that they're actually real, they are real stories, these things actually happened. And I think that's what gripped me the most about it. It really pulls at the heartstrings, and I just implore everybody, do not let this documentary fall under your radar. Check it out, it is really good. Now we've entered the top 5, ladies and gents. Number 5 is The Father, starring Anthony Hopkins. Now this guy proves time and time again why he's one of the greatest actors of our generation, or any generation if that. The guy's just so good in whatever he's in. And again, a bit like I said with Anya J-Latoy's character in Last Night in Soho, Anthony Hopkins has the ability to just be good, even if he's in a completely trash film. Like, he was in Transformers The Last Night, and I really didn't like that film at all, but he was the best thing about it. So Anthony Hopkins plays a character called Anthony, who's slowly suffering from dementia. And I think what the film does really well in its storytelling and visual design is that it puts you in his perspective. It puts you front and centre through his eyes, the way someone with dementia would view things. You see, like, he slowly forgets who his daughter is. You see one actress come in who you believe to be his daughter, and then later on another actress will come in claiming to be his daughter, and then he's like, I don't know who you are. But obviously, the first actress was the daughter in the end, but we didn't know that. We were just sitting there thinking, oh wow, is that really what it's like? And it's such a heart-gripping story because there are people in his life who he just envisions differently all the time. It's like this one guy that he sees who he believes to be this, the partner of his daughter, turns out to be one of the nurses in the care home that he's at the end. And so throughout the entire thing, really, you're kind of trying to pinpoint who is who in Anthony's life. But not once did I feel like, oh, this is just too confusing, or this is too jarring for me. I was just invested in what I was seeing. And I can't praise the film enough for everything that it does. Putting you in the shoes of someone with dementia, somebody going through these situations and not knowing who is who in their life. Sometimes they play like scenes again, but from a different perspective, and so you're like, hang on, well, did that happen or did that happen? This is what these people go through, and it's really heart-wrenching. So The Father overall is an absolutely fantastic film, and I love it so much. Go check it out. Coming in at number 4, we have Tick Tick Boom. Now, Tick Tick Boom is about a real-life musician called Jonathan Larson, played by Andrew Garfield. Extremely well, by the way. And it's basically about the cost of ambition, because Jonathan Larson's character is so ambitious and so confident that his musical will take the world by storm, that he spends a shit ton of money that he can't afford. He's distant from his best friend and his girlfriend because he's so hyper-focused on getting stuff done, which might not even go anywhere. But the guy's ambition is also inspiring in some sense, because even after the guy died, like the guy's dead in real life, his musicals are still remembered to today. But the thing is, he didn't get to see that rise of fame. He got more famous after he died, and that's heartbreaking. But I've got to praise Andrew Garfield here. This is one of his greatest performances, one of the greatest performances that I've ever seen him do. This guy can act, and holy shit, is he good in this film. I had no idea he could sing until this point either. So Jonathan Larson, basically, when he's trying to create his art, his musicals, he tries to turn whatever situation he can think of into a song. Even if it's just about sitting at a cafe and having breakfast in the morning, he turned that entire thing into a song. He turned a song about sugar into a song. It's just really interesting stuff, and Andrew Garfield's voice is actually pretty good as well. So overall, the story is about an ambitious musical director whose dreams eventually came true, but unfortunately it was after death. But the guy will always be remembered for what he did. Andrew Garfield, I've got to praise you for this, my friend. You are really good. At number 3, we have Spider-Man No Way Home. Now, this is the film that I was looking forward to all year with... I know this is a repeated phrase at this time, but it was the worst kept secret in, like, cinema and internet history. We all knew that Toby and Andrew were going to be in this film. We knew. It's like, I even cracked jokes online. I was like, Andrew, you're lying. Because he was lying. He's in the film. I get why, though. This is basically one of the most compelling Spider-Man films that I've seen today. I don't think it's my favourite. I still overall think I prefer Spider-Verse. There are issues that I have with the film and things that I could nitpick at, but while watching it, the first and second time I was in the cinema, it was like I didn't care because I was having so much fun. It's kind of like, you know when films throw in fan service and you're just like, oh, that's there because you remember that thing, right? But that kind of happens in stuff like Star Wars and everything like that. But in this film, it feels earned. It feels like part of the story. Tom Holland here is the best that he's ever been. I don't think I've seen the guy as Spider-Man be this good yet. It's like he finally knows what it means to be Spider-Man. And at the end of this film, when everyone forgets who he is and everything like that, he's in a shit apartment with a homemade suit. He finally became the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. And it'll be nice to see where it goes from there, because obviously he's not part of the Avengers anymore, because the Avengers don't know who he is, his family don't know him, his friends don't know who he is, and it's going to be interesting to see where they take the character from there. It's like, I think it was clever that they didn't just shove all these villains in fresh, because if you think about it, when you make a movie and this guy's got to face like 6 different villains at once, you had to develop all those villains to make you give a shit about them a little bit. So I think it was really clever that they brought like old villains from old Spider-Man films into this film, because the development is already there and we already know and love these characters. We've got Doc Ock, Green Goblin, Electro, the Lizard, Sandman. They're all in this. The only nitpick that I will point out is that there are some scenes where you can clearly tell that certain cast members aren't in the same room as each other. Like, for example, there's one scene where Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield are talking to Tom Holland's Spider-Man about with great power comes great responsibility, about Uncle Ben, about Gwen dying and stuff like that, on top of the school roof. And you can just... some of the shots and the editing choices look like they weren't in the same room. But I get it at the same time. You want to keep this secret, don't you? So having them all on set together, and if they're spotted all together in their costumes, then the internet's just going to exploit it anyway. But it doesn't bother me that much, because it doesn't. The film overall is still really entertaining, and I really, really, really like this film. The fight between like Tom Holland's Spider-Man and Willem Dafoe in the apartment building, and then again at the end, was brutal. I don't think I've seen a Spider-Man fight that brutal since the first Spider-Man. It didn't require any amazing choreography or anything like that. It was just 2 characters beating the living shit out of each other, and that's kind of and that's kind of how it felt to me. But overall, I think out of the new Spider-Man, Andrew Garfield is probably the best. I wouldn't say he's the best version of Spider-Man. He definitely has probably my least favourite Spider-Man film, in my opinion. But I think he really, really stood out here. Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man is still acting exactly the way he did in the Raimi-verse, and that's exactly what I wanted. I didn't want him to feel any different. So Tobey and Andrew, neither of them have lost their mojo. And I remember, like, my cinema erupted in cheers when all 3 Spider-Men jumped off that balcony together, and they were all swinging together in those couple of seconds. They land on top of the statue, Tobey first, then Andrew, and then Tom in the middle. Exactly the order that the franchise did. The Raimi-verse, the Amazing Spider-Man-verse, and then the MCU. But what I also liked as well is that although Tobey and Andrew do come into the film pretty late, they don't steal the limelight away from Tom. This is still very much Tom Holland's Spider-Man film. They weren't exactly co-stars, they weren't in it all that much, but they were in it just enough, and I don't really have any negatives about that. Spider-Man No Way Home was a cinema blessing, but there are 2 films on this list which I enjoyed just a little bit more, so let's get into those right now. Coming in at number 2 is Demon Slayer the movie Mugen Train. Now, Demon Slayer overall is probably one of my favourite animes. It's violent, it's brutal, it's action-packed, it's heart-gripping. It's just really overall fun anime entertainment. But somehow they managed to make that formula where it's like over-the-top choreography, they're jumping all over the place with these overpowered elemental stuff that they can do. And they managed to make that concept work on a train. It's amazing. I believe this anime is probably the biggest in Japan at the moment. It made like $1 billion or something like that. I don't really know the specifics of it, but I can definitely see why. The visuals are amazing. The animation is really well done. The fight scenes are awesome. There's some really funny dream sequences as well with Zenitsu, and usually Zenitsu is quite an annoying character. He's that cliched anime character who screams a lot and throws his over the top fits. and stuff like that, but this was actually pretty funny. Like, I think Zenitsu is a lot more likeable in this film than he was in the TV show. Like, I smiled more at him in this than I did getting irritated. The only character that I think they underutilised a little bit was Nezuko. I would have liked to have seen more of her, because Nezuko is an absolute badass. She doesn't require weapons, she just uses her fists and her feet to attack enemies and stuff like that. But it's got a heartfelt story behind it too. Like, Tanjiro just doesn't think that he could ever live up to what the Hashira are. And then when the Flame Hashira dies at the end of this film, he's like, I believe in you, you can do it, and stuff like that. And it may take Tanjiro a long time to get to that point. But overall, I'm just really intrigued to see what happens next. Like, Demon Slayer is probably the anime that I've rewatched about 3 times at this point, and I should really do a review of the first season. Or I may wait till the second season comes out, and maybe I'll do that. I don't know. But overall, I've fallen in love with anime over the past year. I only really started to get into it just last year during 2020, the UK's first lockdown. I started watching Death Note and The Seven Deadly Sins and Sword Art Online, and I really got into anime, but I think Demon Slayer is probably my second favourite. I do prefer Death Note, but Demon Slayer is an overall great TV show. And the good thing about it is, it's like, it doesn't do what most anime films do, and like be disjointed from the TV show that it's based on, because you see loads and loads of animes which you watch the TV show, and then they bring out a movie, and then you're like, well, where does this fit into the story? And like, there are only people theorising about it and like trying to guess where it belongs. Demon Slayer Mugen Train is based immediately after the first season, and I think that is what makes it stand out most for me, because you can watch the first season, go straight into the film, and still follow it perfectly well. But there is one film on this list that stood out to me a lot more than the rest of them. There are some great films on this list, there are some bad films on this list, but I want to go by the one that tugged at my heartstrings the most, kept me invested the most, and the one that I overall had the most fun with. Spider-Man No Way Home may be the most fun film, but it didn't pull at the heartstrings as much as this one did. Coming in at number 1 is King Richard. Holy shit. Will Smith is absolutely stellar in this film. It's probably the best that I've seen him in such a long time, because, I mean, I think he's really pushing the boundaries. He really wants that Oscar at this point. But there are probably multiple actors in this film which I think also deserve the Oscar. The young girl that played Venus Williams is also really damn good, and I'd actually be happy if either of them won the Oscar, Will Smith or the daughter. So this film is basically the rise and development of tennis legends Serena and Venus Williams. Now, I myself am a tennis fan. I do love me some tennis. I haven't really watched it that much in recent years because my favourite player is Andy Murray, and he's not been winning as much as usual because he injured himself a few years ago, but he's still getting back into it slightly, so I kind of lost interest a little bit. But seeing this film reminded me how much I do love the sport. It's a family-driven story about you can achieve your goals with hard work. And all that hard work, which was put on Venus and Serena, is all thanks to their father, Richard. This guy was a real guy. But at the same time, quite a controversial character, because he's like, a lot of people feel that he was holding the girls back because he wouldn't let Venus play in, like, big tournaments until she turned pro or something like that. And everyone around him was telling him, like, it's very, very unlikely that if you're not pro, you can't play in these tournaments. It's very, very unlikely that you can't become pro unless you play junior leagues or something like that. But Richard, overall, stuck to his guns and pursued the way that he thought was right. He only wants the best for these girls, despite the criticism he may give, despite being an arsehole sometimes to pretty much everyone in this film. He did it out of love for his family, but he did need that little bit of a push. And the most heart-wrenching scene in the entire film was when Richard was arguing with his wife about what they should do with Venus, and she was like, "You are holding them back. I know you have good intentions for them," blah, 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 stuff like that. It was just so emotionally gripping. And seeing that final tennis match between Venus and the number 1 seed at the time, who pulled that really dirty trick of going to the toilet for 8 minutes, and then when she came back, Venus lost all the momentum and ended up losing the match. But of course, at the end, you get some description that says, like, Venus went on to win this, and Serena went on to win this afterwards, and stuff like that. So it's a coming-of-age story, a family drama, a sports drama, probably one of the best sports dramas that I've seen. And overall, Will Smith is just amazing. Like, the guy is a great actor. Like, I've always liked Will Smith. Despite some of the crap that he's been in, this film definitely isn't one of them. King Richard pulled at the heartstrings in ways that I can't even comprehend. It made me feel every kind of emotion known to a human being. You know, sadness, happiness, fulfillment, inspiration, and ambition. And so I absolutely love King Richard. I suggest checking it out. There we go, guys. That is my top 59 films of 2021. I'm going to try and make this an annual thing every single year where I just watch a bunch of films throughout the year and do a video a little like this. Quite relaxed. Just me talking to you. And yeah, I think that's it for now. It's been a decent year for films. Let's hope 2022 brings us the blessings that we all deserve. Let's hope it's not a crap year. And overall, just enjoy yourselves. I'm Jim Bob. I'm out.